inutile. Faisons en sorte également que le marché africain soit le marché des Africains. Produire en Afrique, transformer en Afrique et consommer en Afrique. Produisons ce dont nous avons besoin et consommons ce que nous produisons au lieu d'importer. Le Burkina Faso est venu vous exposer ici la cotonnade produite au Burkina Faso, tissée au Burkina Faso, cousue au Burkina Faso pour habiller les Burkinabés. Ma délégation et moi-même, nous sommes habillés par nos tisserands, nos paysans. Il n'y a pas un seul fil qui vienne de l'Europe ou de l'Amérique. Je ne fais pas un défilé de mode, mais je voudrais simplement dire que nous devons accepter de vivre africain. C'est la seule façon de vivre libre et de vivre digne. Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président. La patrie ou la mort, nous vaincrons.
This is the story of Thomas Sankara, a proponent of Pan-Africanism and a heroic leader from Burkina Faso. Thomas Sankara was a man ahead of his time. Thomas Sankara challenged the conventional ways of doing things, leaving a lasting impression on his countrymen during his 3.5 years in office. Often called the African Che Guevara, Sankara was a visionary who changed the name of his homeland from its colonial name, Upper Volta, to Burkina Faso, the land of the upright. As the president of Burkina Faso, one of the poorest countries in Africa, he sought to change the lives of Burkinabe for good. He held that position until 1987 when he was killed during a coup, which had been organized by his longtime friend, Blaise Compaoré. People suspect that France and all the CIA were also involved as they were displaced by Sankara's radical and progressive policies. In this episode of Historical Africa is a brief account of the extraordinary life of Thomas Sankara, a figure whose story deserves to be known far and wide. Thomas Sankara was a Pan-Africanist and one of the best presidents in the history of Africa. If you're new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe and to click the notifications bell so that you don't miss out on any new uploads. Thomas Noel Sankara was born on the 21st of December 1949 in Yako, French Upper Volta, now known as Burkina Faso. He was the third of 10 children and was born to Joseph and Margaret Sankara. When he was growing up, his Roman Catholic parents wanted him to become a priest, but he chose to enter the military. The military was popular at the time, having just ousted a president that many people despised. Another incentive for his decision to join the military was that acceptance into the military academy would come with a full scholarship. Thomas Sankara was also passionate about music, and he played the guitar in 1970 at the age of 20. Sankara was sent for officer training in Madagascar. While he was in Madagascar, he witnessed a popular uprising of students and workers that succeeded in toppling Madagascar's government. It was also in Madagascar where he first read the works of Karl Marx and Vladimir Lenin, and this profoundly influenced his political views for the rest of his life. Before returning to the Upper Volta in 1972, Sankara attended a parachute academy in France, where he was further exposed to left-wing political ideologies. It was in 1974 where he would earn much public attention for his heroic performance in the border war with Mali. But years later, he would renounce the war as having been useless and unjust. Thomas Sankara rose through the military ranks, and in 1976, he became the commander of one of the commando training centers. It was in the same year that he met his ally and the man who would eventually lead a coup against him. His name is Blaise Compaoré. Sankara Thomas was an eloquent public speaker and a dedicated soldier, and this made him a popular choice for political office. He was appointed the Minister of Information of military government in September of 1981. However, he would clash with his colleagues in government because of his unconventional style. Thomas would bike to work every day instead of driving a car. While his predecessors would censor journalists and newspapers, Sankara encouraged investigative journalism and allowed the media to print whatever it found. This led to publications of government scandals by both privately owned and state-owned newspapers. After another coup which brought to power Major Dr. Jean-Baptiste, Sankara became Prime Minister in January of 1983. This post provided him an entryway into international politics and a chance to meet his revolutionary leaders such as Fidel Castro from Cuba and Thomas Sankara Machel from Mozambique. These interactions further reinforced these left-wing ideologies. Sankara's anti-imperialist stance and grassroots popularity increasingly put him at odds with President Jean-Baptiste Ouédraogo. This led to Sankara being removed as prime minister and being arrested. His arrest angered a subsection of young military officers, and on the 4th of August 1983, Blaise Compaoré, Sankara's friend, led a coup and freed Sankara and formed the National Council of the Revolution with Sankara as its president. Upon getting into power, Sankara was determined to give the country a new identity. He changed the country's name from Upper Volta to Burkina Faso, which means the land of the upright. He also gave the country a new flag and wrote the new national anthem.
Ce nom Haute-Volta, Upper Volta en anglais, a été légué par la colonisation. Mais afin de retrouver notre identité culturelle, nous l'avons rebaptisé Burkina Faso, c'est-à-dire la patrie des hommes libres.
Sankara is renowned for some of the policies that he put in place when he came into power. He was a man on a mission to shake up the status quo and improve the livelihoods of the people of Burkina Faso. He vaccinated 2.5 million children against meningitis, yellow fever, and measles. In just a matter of weeks of taking power, Sankara initiated a nationwide literacy campaign, increasing the literacy rate from 13% in 1983 to 73% in 1987. In his 3.5 years in power, his government planted over 10 million trees to prevent desertification. Sankara was one of the very first African leaders to appoint women to high government positions. Sankara recognized the crucial role of women in nation building. He encouraged their active participation in all aspects of society and implemented policies to improve gender equality, such as banning female genital mutilation and promoting education for girls.
Des filles. Il faudrait qu'ici aussi nous commencions à nous débarrasser de cet art féodal. Ce sont des arts féodales, de l'éducation féodale, qui nous a dit que le garçon est toujours au-dessus de la fille. À l'école même, quand les filles sont en grossesse ou des choses comme ça, on les renvoie, n'est-ce pas? On les exclut. Mais on ne cherche même pas à savoir si le partenaire avec lequel elle a eu la grossesse là ne se trouve pas par hasard dans la classe. Et même s'il s'y trouve, on le laisse lui, le garçon. Donc le garçon peut faire autant d'enfants qu'il veut. Dès la 6e, s'il veut, il commence à faire des enfants jusqu'en terminale. On ne le renverra jamais. Mais la fille, même si elle est à 1 jour de son bac, elle fait un enfant, allez, renvoyée.
Sankara sold off the government's fleet of Mercedes cars and made the Renault 5 the official service car of the ministers. He also reduced the salaries of all his public servants and forbade the use of government chauffeurs and first-class airline tickets in case. You're wondering if all these measures apply to him. Well, don't be. Sankara led by example. He lived on a salary that he kept at the equivalent of $462 per month. His few assets were public knowledge. There was an unimposing Peugeot 205, a refrigerator, a few bicycles, and several guitars.
Je suis parmi, dans ma population de mon pays, je suis parmi les 0,035% de ceux qui ont eu la chance d'être des fonctionnaires et d'avoir un salaire régulièrement. Est-ce que vous pensez que c'est normal que des gens comme moi soient régulièrement payés et que le reste de la population, des millions et des millions de personnes, soient dans la misère continue? Non, cela n'est pas normal et nous luttons contre cela. À commencer d'abord par les principaux dirigeants, le président, ses ministres et tous les autres.
Thomas Sankara redistributed the land from the feudal landlords and gave it directly to the masses, which production rose in 3 years from 1,500 kilograms per hectare to 3,800 kilograms per hectare, making Burkina Faso self-sufficient. Thomas Sankara believed that Burkina Faso could learn to sustain itself without foreign aid. He refused packages from the International Monetary Fund that he said came with strings attached. One of his famous quotes was, "The one who feeds you usually imposes his will upon you." Sankara would try to persuade other African countries to collectively refuse to pay their financial debts to their former colonizers. I'm pretty sure this produced high levels of contamination from some very powerful people. Sankara became a symbol of hope for many African nations struggling under the weight of colonial legacies. He inspired a wave of Pan-African activism and challenged leaders to prioritize the needs of their people. Sankara's revolutionary zeal led him to allegedly target certain elements of the society as enemies, and they were persecuted. Despite all of Sankara's progressive reforms, however, by 1987, Sankara's government was also in trouble. In his attempt to root out corruption, Sankara set up public tribunals that tried nearly 1,000 government officials and civil servants for the misuse or theft of public funds. Many lost their jobs, plenty without just cause, and this angered many of the country's elites. Thomas Sankara's policies also antagonized France and his ally, the Ivory Coast. During this whole process, Sankara also suspected that his right-hand man, Blaise Compaoré, might be plotting a coup. Blaise Compaoré had lost faith in the revolution. On October 15, 1987, Sankara was killed by an armed group along with 12 other officials in a coup d'etat organized by Blaise Compaoré. Sankara's body was dismembered and was quickly buried, while his wife Miriam and 2 children fled the nation. Sankara was 37 at the time. Once Blaise Compaoré assumes the role of president, he immediately reversed the nationalizations of the country's resources, overturned nearly all of Sankara's policies and rejoined the International Monetary Fund, as well as the World Bank. Compaoré would remain in power for 27 years until he was overthrown by the popular protest in 2014. Sankara's impact cannot be overstated. His reforms laid the foundation for Burkina Faso's development and continue to inspire leaders and activists worldwide. His ideas of self-sufficiency, anti-corruption, and dignity for all are as relevant today as they were back then. Sankara was also determined to improve the livelihoods of his people in an era where most African leaders are in power either for their own benefit or for their family. As we conclude this journey into the life of Thomas Sankara, let's reflect upon his words. While revolutionaries as individuals can be murdered, you cannot kill ideas. Join us next time as we uncover more captivating stories of those who dare to challenge the status quo and shape history. Remember to share your thoughts about Thomas Sankara in the comment section below. This has been today's episode of Historical Africa. Remember to like and share the video if you enjoyed it. Until next time, cheers. Have a good one.